Hello everyone, my name is Alice.
And my name is Matt.
And we're both research assistants on the MYRIAD Project at the University of Oxford.
So as research assistants, we have a lot of different responsibilities. So right from the beginning of the project and recruitment, and then liaising with our participants, which in our case is teachers within our schools, and then through to data collection, analysing the data and writing up the findings at the end of the project.
It's a really varied job.
So we're going to talk to you today about different data collection methods, and there are quite a few in psychological research. So some examples would be observations or interviews.
Or questionnaires. So when we were designing our research, we had to weigh up all of the pros and cons of lots of different methods in order to make the best decision for our research.
So one data collection method would be interviews, and this gives us a really rich data set because we can ask questions from our participants and we can follow those questions up if we need to find out more information. And it also gives them the chance to ask us questions if they don't understand. And you can build a good rapport, so hopefully they feel more honest when answering the questions.
Or it might be that participants actually are less honest if they're doing interviews because they're sat face to face with somebody, which might make them feel as if the person that they're talking to might judge their answers and therefore they may not be honest. This is one of the reasons why we decided not to use interviews in our research. The other reason why we decided not to use interviews is because we have a lot of participants in our research. In fact, we have around 27,000 young people taking part and 1,200 teachers. Now, to visit all of those teachers and all of those pupils and talk to them face to face would not only be really time consuming, but would also be really, really expensive. And then if you consider the data that you get from those interviews, it would take a really long time to analyse, code and write up the findings from all of those responses.
So another option would be observations, so going in and observing teachers' and pupils' behaviour in the classroom. But for us, because we wanted to look at well-being, observations would not be a good method, as we would not be able to pick that up through behaviour.
So another option that we had, and the one that we ended up going with, was questionnaires. And part of the reason for this is because it allows participants to answer anonymously, which means that they can feel as if they can be more honest when they're answering the questions. Also, when you do questionnaires, you can have classfuls of pupils all answering the questionnaires at once, which makes it a much more cost-effective method than observation or interviews.
That's very true. And we had to decide what types of questions to use. So an example would be open-ended questions, which allows pupils to write in free text responses, or closed-ended questions, where pupils can only pick from a selection of answers given.
So, for example, if we were interested in measuring how happy somebody was on a given day, we could ask them an open-ended question and say, how happy are you feeling? And then they could write in their own words in a box how they're feeling that day. Or the other option would be to use a closed question. So if I'm interested in how happy somebody is on a given day, I can ask them, how happy are you feeling? And get them to answer on a scale of 0 to 10 how happy they're feeling.
And this would give us two different types of data: quantitative data and qualitative data. So quantitative data would be numbers, and qualitative data would be if they've got a free text response.
In our research, we decided to use quantitative data, and that's the numerical data. And part of the reason for that is because of the number of participants that we have. If we used open-ended questions, analysing 27,000 responses would be really, really time consuming. But if you use closed-ended questions and quantitative data, then you can analyse all of those responses at once using one statistical method.
So we also had to spend some time thinking about which are the best questionnaires to use in our project. So we had to make sure we were using valid and reliable questionnaires, and also that we were measuring what we wanted to measure. So because we were looking at mental health and we wanted to look at overall mental health, we needed to make sure that we were not just picking one aspect to look at.
So these are all of the things that you need to consider when you're designing your own research project.
So when thinking about which data collection method is best for you, write up a pros and cons list for each of the different methods, and then this will help you choose the best one. And then you can speak to your teacher as well to see if you've made the right decision.